Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopijana Balava Giriparadhare Gopijana Balava Giriparadhare Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopijana Balava Giriparadhare Gopijana Balava Giriparadhare Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahangsa Parivrajacharya Tadasasismad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, Sri Sri Radha Radhanath Ki, Sri Giri Govardhan Ki, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki, Sankirtan Yagya Ki, Go Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today is a special day in that we have a gathering of some of the senior devotees involved in the development of Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON. So I thought we could choose a special verse, something a little different, kind of out of the normal sequence. So we'll read Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 30, the activities of the Prachetas, and we'll read verse 8. I'll just read it myself. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Varam Vrinidvam Bhadram Vo Yuyame Nripanandana Soharde Na Pritag Dharmas Tushto Ham Soradena Va. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear sons of the King, I'm very much pleased by the friendly relationships among you. All of you are engaged in one occupation, devotional service. I'm so pleased with your mutual friendship that I wish you all good fortune. Now you may ask a benediction of me. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Since the sons of King Prachanabarishat were all united in Krishna consciousness, the Lord was very pleased with them. Each and every one of the sons of King Prachanabarishat was an individual soul, but they were united in offering transcendental service to the Lord. The unity of the individual souls attempting to satisfy the Supreme Lord or rendering service to the Lord is real unity. In the material world, such unity is not possible. Even though people may officially unite, they all have different interests. In the United Nations, for instance, all the nations have their particular national ambitions, and consequently, they cannot be united. Disunity between individual souls is so strong within this material world that even in a society of Krishna consciousness, members sometimes appear disunited due to their having different opinions and leaning toward material things. Actually, in Krishna consciousness, there cannot be two opinions. There is only one goal: to serve Krishna to one's best ability. If there is some disagreement over service, such disagreement is to be taken as spiritual. Those who are actually engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be disunited in any circumstance. This makes the Supreme Personality of Godhead very happy and willing to award all kinds of benediction to his devotees, as indicated in this verse. We can see that the Lord is immediately prepared to award all benedictions to the sons of King Prachanabarhishat. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Varam Vrinidvam Bhadram Vo Yuyame Nripanandana So Hardina Pritag Dharmas Tushtoham Soradena Va. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear sons of the King, I'm very much pleased by the friendly relationships among you. All of you are engaged in one occupation, devotional service. I am so pleased with your mutual friendship that I wish you all good fortune. Now you may ask a benediction of me." Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyachadeshtarne Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So welcome to all of our guests, particularly our more senior devotees who have come for meeting and discussing the development of Prabhupada's movement, but welcome to everyone. I mean, welcome to everyone, including the devotees living in the temple. Well, welcome to you too. It's very nice to have the association of you all. We all know only too well by now that association, or the lack of association, is really not very nice. Life looks very different. Life in Krishna consciousness even looks very different when we can't get much association of devotees. So we're very happy to have you all here. Welcome. We wish you all the best. And let's hope that our gatherings today are fruitful in the types of ways that the Supreme Lord is pointing out here and emphasizing and appreciating here. This is one of those, you could say, kind of classic verses. Every verse is classic in Shastra, particularly in Srimad Bhagavatam. Every verse is special, and there's just everything to learn from every verse. So every verse is special, but some verses are even more special, or particularly special in relation to particular subject matters within Krishna consciousness, and in terms of relationships, cooperation, and working together at the lotus feet of the Lord. This particular verse is definitely a real classic. The Supreme Lord is speaking, and he's making the point that, well, what he says is, I'm so pleased with your mutual friendship that I wish you all good fortune. And we should note that, the way he expresses himself, the way Srila Prabhupada has put it, because in the purport at the very end of the purport, Srila Prabhupada refers to this particular sentence from the translation, and Srila Prabhupada says, it's the last sentence of the purport. We can see that the Lord is immediately prepared to award all benedictions to the sons of King Prachanabarhishat. You know, Srila Prabhupada made it clear, he stated very clearly, that when he wrote his purports, when he translated everything in terms of producing his books, there was nothing just sort of automatic, like just repeat a standard thing, like a slogan type of thing. But Prabhupada said that he was really painstaking about choosing every word. Yes. So here Srila Prabhupada, or at least the verse itself, which of course is translated by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada has translated the Lord in such a way that one might think that this is just, he's just saying one of those common things, and he's just repeating a common thing, and there may not be special significance in it. But the way Prabhupada's translated it is that the Lord is saying that because of the mutual friendship between those brothers, the Prachetas, I wish you all good fortune. And we should note the word all, not just some, certainly not a little, and not just a lot, but all. Actual all good fortune. And that's what Prabhupada says here. The Lord is prepared to award all benedictions to the sons of Prachanabarhishat, the Prachetas, but actually to all devotees, to all devotees. It's significant. It's very significant. All benedictions, all good fortune, that's a lot of benedictions. That's a lot of mercy. And for the recipients, that is just huge, incalculable good fortune. But that is what is being discussed here. And we, of course, Prabhupada's intention always was to present his books for the world and just present it faithfully. But on many occasions, I was present one time in Srila Prabhupada's room in Bhaktivedanta Manor, his darshan room, and he made the point to a group of devotees that I have produced these books for you, for the devotees. Of course, he's produced them for everyone, for the whole world. And, you know, when or if we go interplanetary, as people sometimes talk about these days, then all the people in the universe. But it was a situation there where Srila Prabhupada asked a group of devotees, and I was not a member of the group, it was the German book distribution team. But I just happened to be there. Somehow I got into the room, there I was. And Prabhupada asked the devotees, what is the main thing? What's the main thing? And hands went up. Book distribution, Srila Prabhupada. No. And then a bit of back and forth. And Prabhupada said, the main thing is you must read these books. I've written these books for you. So therefore, this particular verse and purport is really, really significant and relevant for us. And of course, Prabhupada emphasized this point himself later at the end, or just right around the end of his pastimes, when Srila Prabhupada spoke the extremely famous statement that your love for me will be shown by how much you cooperate together after I'm gone. So I remember hearing that statement just at the time. Prabhupada was still with us, and when Prabhupada would make statements about different things, of course we didn't have electronic methods of communication, but the word would spread. Letters would go out and like that, what Prabhupada just said. And I remember when that came around, I was there in London in the manor, and I heard this, and I was with a group of devotees. So we heard this, that Prabhupada said that our love for him will be shown by how we cooperate together after he's departed. And I remember thinking, and the other devotees who I was with, we had a small discussion about it. I remember thinking that really, cooperation, it's not so hard to cooperate. I mean, it's okay. We cooperate. It's not like an issue. We must cooperate or else, that sort of thing. I remember thinking like that and expressing that, and the other devotees also there. They were all just, say, slightly puzzled. Really? Why is Prabhupada emphasizing this? You know, it's kind of self-evident, and we don't need to be instructed like that. But as time went on, from that point onwards, it became progressively more clear, and it continues to become progressively more clear even to this day, that it's not just a given that, yeah, we just cooperate, so, and what's next? It's a major point. It's a really major point. And it's not just a managerial point that, we should do like this and not do like that, just some sort of practical pragmatism, but it's actually a very deep spiritual point. It's a very deep spiritual point. And Prabhupada spoke it because in his, extremely profound understanding of Krishna consciousness and us and Kali Yuga, Prabhupada understood that this really needs to be focused on among so many other essential instructions he gave. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Shri Giri Govardhan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Because the thing is, in this material world, we're very much in the material world here, and in this material world, the conditioned souls have different common shared characteristics and like features of character. And so many of them are connected with or even fundamental to why we're in the material world and we're not in Goloka Vrindavan. No, we certainly hope to be able to go there as soon as possible. But currently we are here, and currently we're still, it depends on the devotee, different devotees are on different levels, but in general there's this tendency to be afflicted by these common things which are shared and which all conditioned souls have. Oftentimes it's felt and expressed that the main reason we're here in this material world is because we want to enjoy rather than serve. And of course there's great truth in that. Everyone wants to enjoy themselves. But there's also an interesting point was made by one devotee, very senior devotee, and we include it in our seminar or retreat regarding humility, that enjoying is one thing, and it's a big thing. It's not at all a small thing. But another perspective on our situation and how we came here and why we're still here is the desire for independence. That I am me and you are you, and I will do what I like and not necessarily what you like unless I like it. And Prabhupada refers to this here, that, he talks about the United Nations, the so-called United Nations, and, it could be suggested that they could just call themselves the disunited nations, and it would be more to the point, actually, because each nation has their own particular national ambitions, which is just a reflection, like a super reflection of the fact that every individual has their own individual ambitions. It's just a macrocosmic form of a microcosmic fact. But then Prabhupada goes on to say that disunity between individual souls is so strong within this material world that even in a society of Krishna consciousness, members sometimes appear disunited due to their having different opinions and leaning toward material things. But then, of course, encouragingly, Prabhupada then says that actually in Krishna consciousness there cannot be two opinions. There's only one goal: to serve Krishna to one's best ability. If there's some disagreement over service, such disagreement is to be taken as spiritual. Yeah, so in other words, based on our strong and even staunch individuality and the propensity to be independent, then what sometimes happens is that there are serious spiritual problems, sometimes very serious spiritual problems, spiritual disagreements. And as Prabhupada says, you can say they're spiritual, and in some cases they're really deeply spiritual. But still, there's disunity, and that is not so good, particularly when there's conflict and disunity and like that amongst the devotees. So like I said, the idea of enjoyment, we're here because we want to enjoy, we were not sufficiently satisfied just serving and being concerned about Krishna's enjoyment and really focusing on that and just saying, how can we give him enjoyment? But somehow the idea came up that why just Krishna getting enjoyment? Why can't I get some? Yeah. Why do I have to do everything for his enjoyment? I can do some things for his enjoyment. Why can't I do some things for my enjoyment? This is like, pre-coming to the material world. It develops, it evolves to the point where it becomes just an overwhelming ambition. And then one wakes up one morning in the material world. Anyway, somehow or other one comes to the material world. Yes, so enjoyment is one thing, but just being independent, just doing my thing, aham mameti, Bhagavatam says, I, me, and mine. This is, and of course, enjoying independently, if you put the two together. But sometimes it's not just a matter of independent enjoyment. Sometimes it's just a matter of just independence. So, what came first? The desire to enjoy or the desire to be independent? Well, anyway, we are trying to deal with these things through becoming Krishna conscious. But Srila Prabhupada made this very, very famous statement and emphasized it, and on numerous occasions in other places, in letters, conversations, and in other places in his writings and in his classes, Srila Prabhupada in one way or another addressed this point of independence versus cooperation. And so it's the cultivation of cooperation amongst devotees. It is not, as we said, just a matter of practical pragmatism just doing what works the best. But actually it comes down to a very transcendental point, a very important philosophical point in Krishna consciousness, that there are so many characteristics that the conditioned souls have. Lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, arrogance, bewilderment. These are some of the main ones, and there are all sorts of subdivisions within each. And part of Krishna consciousness means to recognize each one of us, not that we should be self-absorbed and just always thinking, how am I not? And just, what's wrong with me? Because then that's just another version of I, me, and mine. But definitely we have to check and keep an eye on ourselves and be mindful of what are my particular weaknesses from the Krishna conscious point of view. What are my particular anathas? Anatha Nivritti is such a major stage for the progressive devotees, becoming aware of and then praying to the Lord to help one to get rid of, and actually trying to get rid of yourself of these anathas. So this propensity towards independence, independence just even on a one-on-one basis, that the idea that I am an island, I'm just one singular entity, and I will do my life like that. And then independence on a national level, independence on a species level, independence on all different types of levels, and the dangers of contamination being there in our sense of independence. Because after all, our philosophy, as spoken by Lord Chaitanya, Jivera Swarupaya, Krishnera Nityadas, Krishnera Tatasta Shakti, Bade Abade Prakash. This is a definition of who and what we are on the most basic foundational type of level. Jivera Swarupaya, Krishnera Nityadas, that all of us, our Swarup, meaning our most essential nature, what we are in the most fundamental sense is we're all the eternal servants of Krishna. But then to take it a step further, a little detail, Jivera Tatasta Shakti, Bade Abade Prakash. That we're the Tatasta Shakti, the marginal potency of Krishna. And there's a particular kind of nature to that. Being Tatasta, marginal, could be one way, could be another way. And that is, we are Bade Abade Prakash. Bade means different from, and Abade means not different from. So, of course, we've all heard these terms before. The way Prabhupada expressed it was that we are simultaneously, but somewhat inconceivably one with Krishna and independent from him. We're both. Material life, of course, means that the independent, that aspect of the nature has become exaggerated. It's become exaggerated. So just as we've described how people in material life, when they really get into things, then they look out for number one, as they say. They're really self-focused and self-absorbed in all situations, ultimately. So material life means that the difference from Krishna has become exaggerated and blown out of proportion, and just, one has then lost it and become absorbed in material life. Whereas the very common approach to non-material life, the very common approach to spiritual life, is impersonalism, that it's all one. Means exaggerating the oneness and overlooking the difference. And that's impersonalism, that's Mayavad, that it's all one. But it's not all one. Each one of us, we're all individuals, that's true, but we're individuals within one context, that we're all the eternal servants of Krishna, and we're all meant together to get together in a type of oneness in Krishna's service. So this is very transcendental. This is a very spiritual point. And it's something that we really have to work on, and we have to be observant as far as our own natures and our own proclivities and tendencies due to our material upbringings and many lifetimes in this material world. And therefore, we all need, each one of us needs at least one devotee, at least one who knows us enough and who cares about us enough that they may intervene if we start getting a little carried away with something material while we're trying to practice Krishna consciousness. Sometimes it's said that if you really want to know how you're doing in Krishna consciousness, there are different people you can ask, but it's often not a good idea to ask yourself. Because, due to material background, we all have the tendency to be excessively appreciative of ourselves and excessively unappreciative of others. It's such a material thing. It's such a material thing. Yes. So to not be critical of ourselves, but to be critical of others. And it's so easy for these tendencies, because of our, practically indefinite period of time in material existence, it's so easy to become affected by these things, even to smallish degrees within our lives in Krishna consciousness. So, yeah, it's a really deep subject, and it's something which is very relevant to us, because as such a mood of self-appreciation, and, you know, there's a saying, what is it? We judge ourselves by our intentions, but we judge others by their actions. You know, it's a fairly well-known little saying, but it's so true. The tendency is so much like that, to judge ourselves by our intentions. I didn't mean to do any harm, but you caused harm. Well, I didn't mean to. In other words, I'm trying to absolve myself of blame, although I did create harm. But the other one who creates harm, we jump on his case. And when it develops, because these things easily develop to, you know, quite major things, then Srila Baladev Vijayabhushan, in his commentary on Bhagavad Gita, he talks about envy. And he says, envy means that you look at another person and you search to find faults, even in the midst of many good qualities, but you're searching, where are the faults? And then when you find some, because, you know, it is the material world and it's difficult to become fault-free, when you find a fault, it may be real, but then, it becomes a big thing. It becomes the thing. This person is like this. And when things reach that point, then, you know, it's a really sorry state of affairs. So to learn cooperation, appreciation, you know, cooperation, again, is not just mechanical, that we just do what we're told, but cooperation also, there has to be an element of appreciation for real cooperation to manifest. We have to really appreciate who we are meant to cooperate with. Otherwise, if we don't appreciate them, then either we just cooperate mechanically, or we may cooperate begrudgingly. And then it's not real cooperation. Because real cooperation means giving one's heart in the society of devotees. So, of course, again, the idea of independence and each one of us being our little selves, I am my own unit, of course, it's true, we are ourselves, obviously, but we're also part of the greater whole. And in some people's minds, and in some devotees' minds sometimes, the idea of cooperation is that, yes, cooperation means everyone will do what I say. They'll cooperate with me. That's cooperation. But when someone has some other idea, well, that's another thing. So yeah, it takes some advancement in Krishna consciousness. It takes some advancement for that flexibility of character, not just flexibility in the sense of being easily influenced whoever talks the loudest, we just go along with them. Not that sort of flexibility, but flexibility in Krishna consciousness means that when the matter being discussed is presented, that we cooperate, we do what is actually the best as much as we're able to understand. But the best thing in that particular matter, which may be partially something that we would have agreed with if you just ask us out of the blue, or it may be something we completely agree with. But there has to be a Krishna-conscious discussion, and the basis of that Krishna-conscious discussion, of course, the Brahmins in general, the Brahmins are the ones who have the deepest understanding of what is Krishna consciousness and how to act in Krishna consciousness. So like this, we have to refer to the senior Brahmins, but ultimately, the top Brahmin, in Krishna, in ISKCON we got many Brahmins, but the top Brahmin, the top intelligent person who's able to evaluate and understand what should be done, what should not be done, how things should be done, the top Brahmin is Srila Prabhupada, of course. In fact, Srila Prabhupada is so much the top Brahmin that he's just totally in a class of his own. And others become qualified as Brahmins in understanding how to live in Krishna consciousness in terms of how conversant they are with the instructions and the perspectives of Srila Prabhupada and the understandings given by Srila Prabhupada. Like there's a little bit famous exchange between Srila Prabhupada and one disciple in India, I think in Bombay, and it's mentioned in Leelamrita, as I recall, that one devotee came to Srila Prabhupada and said, Srila Prabhupada, you have taught us that Krishna consciousness is absolute. Everything Krishna conscious, it's all absolute. So one service, even we read actually, I think yesterday morning, in our early morning little reading of Srila Prabhupada, that Srila Prabhupada said exactly that point. Cooking, cleaning, whatever in Krishna consciousness, it's all equal. So the devotee tried to sort of use what Prabhupada had said to get his way with Srila Prabhupada. You have said that in Krishna consciousness all service is equal. Well, that's true. And the devotee said, so the thing is, Srila Prabhupada, I'm not so much into chanting. I like cooking. I like serving in the kitchen, so I'm going to do that. And Srila Prabhupada said, sort of mildly, well, that's nice, but, we must chant. We do need to chant, so you must chant your rounds. And the devotee tried to argue, sort of by using what Prabhupada had said, sort of argue Srila Prabhupada against Srila Prabhupada. That repeat the same point, but Prabhupada, you've said like this, and this is what I like to do, and I want to do that. And chanting, not really, but I'll be in the kitchen. And eventually Prabhupada concluded by saying that you have my permission, maybe my blessings. You can eat and sleep all day, but you must chant 16 rounds. So, we're prone to argumentativeness and speculation and just independence in our thinking. But part of progress in Krishna consciousness is that Krishna may give you the intelligence so you understand in given situations how to cooperate. And not necessarily just do absolutely everything that everybody else says, but how to cooperate nicely in the best way, the best way, the most correct way, in terms of what Srila Prabhupada has given us in Krishna consciousness. So here the Supreme Personality of Godhead is instructing the Prachetas, they're brothers. Biologically, they're brothers. We're all brothers and sisters in Krishna consciousness. So it's the same principle. We're all related in Krishna consciousness. Even we may have different spiritual masters, some of us, but still the principle is effectively exactly the same, that we are brothers and sisters in Krishna consciousness, and the more we can absorb these points, learn these points, and through trying and through prayer, get the intelligence to see when we should speak and when we should be quiet and what we should accept and what there may be a better version, but all in terms of what's been given to us by Srila Prabhupada. Scripture and Srila Prabhupada, but ultimately even Scripture, we have to see Scripture in terms of how Srila Prabhupada has given us Scripture. So if we do like this, if we try to cultivate this as part of our ongoing program for the development and the maturing of our Krishna consciousness, then individually we'll progress, and collectively we'll progress. And the Krishna consciousness movement will develop more and more, become more and more dynamic and effective, and we as individuals will become more dynamic and more effective. And ultimately, Krishna consciousness will spread more, and we will be happier. We'll be very happy in Krishna consciousness. So this is what we can take. I mean, these are some things we can take from this verse. Let me just read the translation again. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear sons of the King, I'm very much pleased by the friendly relationships among you. All of you are engaged in one occupation, devotional service. I'm so pleased with your mutual friendship that I wish you all good fortune." And don't forget, by the emphasis Prabhupada has given in the purport, he actually means all good fortune. So now you may ask a benediction of me. In this way we'll get the blessings of the Lord, the mercy of the Lord. Hare Krishna. Any comments or questions? comment. Govardhan Prabhu, would you like to make a comment or?
We're most fortunate to have heard that beautiful verse, and most fortunate that you've explained it to us. Thank you. I've read that verse a few times, and the angles that you brought out was very enriching. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. That's all.